This is 7 News with Samantha Armitage.
Hello and welcome to this special 7 News bulletin on the unprecedented weather emergency that's hit the East Coast, killing at least 5 people. I'm Samantha Armitage. Blinding rain and gale force winds have caused so much damage that the Premier, Morris Yema, has declared a state of emergency for the Hunter Valley and the Central Coast. That's where the weather has been most ferocious. It's caused the death of 2 people at Clarence Town and has claimed 3 members of a family of 5 whose car was swept away at Summersby. Overnight, the incredible deluge flooded Newcastle. A 40-year-old man is missing after being swept down a stormwater drain. And the high winds continue to complicate the salvage of the stricken coal tanker off Nobby's Beach. There have also been hundreds of reports of landslides, damaged homes and stranded drivers across Sydney. And the Weather Bureau is warning we're not out of it yet, with the storm moving south. 7 News has reporters across the region, and Adrian Brown joins me now with an update on the lives that have been lost to the storm. He's at Summersby, where a car carrying a couple and their 3 young children was swept off the old Pacific Highway. Police have found the bodies of the man and 2 of the children.
Yes, Sam, well, this is Piles Creek, and beside me, this gaping chasm. This is the 30-foot deep hole that the car fell into when the road collapsed. And it's about 10 metres across this hole, and it would have been absolutely terrifying. What we don't know is whether the road actually fell apart as the car was crossing over it, or whether the car simply drove into the hole. What happened then is that the car was carried about 100 metres by the raging torrent below, ending up at a riverbank just further down. I've seen the car. It has been completely pulverised. Their lives would have ended in a few terrifying seconds. Now, the really disturbing thing, Sam, is that local people that we spoke to last night and again this morning have told us that there was an accident, a road collapse like this at this same spot several years ago, and people have been warning that this was an accident waiting to happen. Listen to what some of them had to say.
It collapsed about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. They filled in with about 1.5 foot full of gravel, didn't worry about it, and now with all this rain, dry weather, it looks like it's just collapsed again.
There was another tragedy north of here in Clarence Town when a couple in a 4-wheel drive were swept off a bridge by the torrent. The car has been found, and as I say, 2 more deaths. But there has been some slightly better news, some good news to report perhaps, in what has been a tragic couple of days. In the Hunter Valley, a woman was rescued from the rooftop of her home in very dramatic circumstances. We're going to show you those pictures now. She was hoisted to safety. She'd been waiting for several hours to be rescued. They finally managed to reach her. And as you can see here now, truly remarkable pictures. Across the state, there are many people not able to watch this broadcast at the moment, Sam, because they are without electricity. As of this morning, some 200,000 people were waiting for their power to be connected. The rescue services, of course, have been working round the clock. They've been toiling in darkness and in rain. It's eased off a bit here at the moment, but we have had heavy rain in the centre of Sydney and around the city this afternoon. So the conditions for these workers really have been very difficult indeed. It is all but a state of emergency. The problems that lie ahead now, of course, trying to repair damage like this, trying to repair these roads. But it's going to take days, of course, before things can return to any sense of normality. With that, back to you, Sam.
Adrian Brown there at Summersby, where the search continues for a woman and child still missing from that accident. Now let's go to Sarah Cumming with an update on the flooding in Newcastle.
Sam, it's a picture of absolute devastation and destruction here in Newcastle, and the SES has just told us that the worst could be yet to come, with the Hunter River expected to reach its peak and break its banks around midnight tonight. Now, all emergency crews and thousands of residents had a sleepless night, as you can imagine. They were really given very little warning of just how ferocious this storm would be. The floodwaters simply inundated entire streets, dozens of businesses. Whole suburbs were swamped within seconds. Now, hundreds of residents had to be evacuated, including many elderly residents from a local retirement home. They were taken to nearby halls for the night, and more evacuation centres are being set up in preparation for tonight's wild weather. The conditions have been absolutely horrendous, including gale force winds, torrential rain and icy temperatures. So ambulance crews have been kept busy treating people for hypothermia. But it was even difficult for paramedics to get through the floodwaters last night. And frantic residents who tried to flee didn't get too far at all. Many motorists were forced to abandon their vehicles. Now, 100,000 homes are still without power, and many residents don't have any phone connection or running water. And authorities are telling us this has been a 1 in 30-year rain event. And look, the clean-up is likely to take days, even weeks. Police are also continuing to search for a 40-year-old Newcastle man who was swept away in floodwaters last night. So hundreds of scenes of devastation and despair here in Newcastle. Sam.
Sarah Cumming there in the centre of Newcastle. Now, 7 reporter Paul Caddick is at Nobby's Beach waiting for the salvage of that stricken coal tanker. Good afternoon to you, Paul. Has the weather allowed that salvage to begin?
Well, no, it hasn't, Sam, and just when it will begin is, well, the million-dollar question. And trying to find an answer is a team of salvage experts who in the last couple of hours have been winched aboard the stricken carrier. They're on there at the moment trying to assess what kind of damage has been done, but also looking at what options there are for refloating the vessel, trying to get it back out to sea. Now, since they've been on there, we've seen a steady procession of helicopters bringing equipment, pumps, generators, compressors, that sort of thing, in preparation for anything they may do. Now, we're told it will be days before they even consider moves to refloat it. They are waiting for the weather to clear, and that won't be instantly. In fact, just behind the ship, you might be able to see that there is some more dark storm clouds coming, some more high seas coming tonight. So they're hoping that the ship will be able to survive that, and then they'll look as to what exactly that they'll do. And watching proceedings, there's quite a big crowd, literally thousands of people, you'd have to say, on the headland here watching proceedings. It is quite a sight, and this would be Newcastle's biggest tourist attraction at the moment. And some people watching on, it is for them quite eerie, history repeating itself even, because they remember about 30 years ago the last wreck of this kind, the Cygnet, which happened a little further up the coast.
Paul, that tanker is carrying oil and diesel. Has any of that leaked into the ocean?
Well, there is good news on that front, Sam. Yes, you're right, 700 tonnes of fuel oil aboard. But the Newcastle Ports Corporation has confirmed for us that reconnaissance by aircraft has shown that none of that has, in fact, leaked into the sea. Now, the ship's only about a year old. It's quite stable on the sandbank. It's run aground on, so I hope that will keep it steady, that there won't be any more damage to the hull, especially with more wild weather coming tonight, until they can work out just what they're going to do next.
OK, thanks, Paul. We'll have to leave it there. Paul Caddick there at Nobby's Beach in Newcastle. Well, stay with us here on this special 7 News Bulletin. I'll be back with more on the state's weather emergency right after this break.